anytime you're investing into cameras and lenses and accessories and all this gear, it can add up pretty quick. And one of my base recommendations for anybody who's either been doing this for a long time or is just getting into it is try and stick with one system. Right here I've got a GH5, which has a micro four thirds sensor, so it of course has lenses for micro four third, whereas right here I have a 5D Mark IV, which has EF lenses, and then I've also got another GH5 here that has a Nikon lens, and it's adapted to the micro four thirds mount. So there's like just a lot of stuff. And I think it's a really good practice, if you can, try and find the one camera that's going to solve most of your needs, or the one camera system. I would really strongly advise, don't get involved in a variety of camera systems. I even have the Ursa Mini Pro over here. And the thing is, it's nice if you have a GH5 and you buy batteries for the GH5 and you buy lenses for the GH5 and then you buy another GH5, all those lenses, all those batteries, the memory cards, everything works because it's all the same system. Even if you get a GH4 or a GH6 potentially when that comes out, it should mostly be all the same stuff. Maybe the batteries will change slightly or the lens mount might change, but probably not if it's sticking within the same series. Same thing is true for Canon for the longest time when they were doing EF, lenses and mounts. Now they've gone to RF, which is the Canon mirrorless one. But really, 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 as much as you can, try and not get invested in two systems. It's very tempting. Oh, well, I'm going to get Canon for the autofocus, but then I'm going to get this other system for low light, or I'm going to get this cinema camera for film shoots, but then I'm going to get this other camera for photo shoots. And the reason I like hybrid so much is that if I can do both, and I can do both reasonably well, it's only one system to invest in. If you have two systems, not only are you doubling the cost of your cameras, but you're also doubling the cost of all the accessories that go along with them. And usually, it's not like you can use one as an A cam and a B cam, because that can be a challenge in itself. Maybe they're radically different in terms of color and the way they capture images, so color grading them to match can be a pain. Also, maybe the lenses or the look is very different in terms of one's being Super 35 and one's full frame. There can be a lot of problems where oftentimes you will want two of the same camera because you're doing a photo shoot and you need two photographers there, or maybe you need two cameras so you don't have to switch lenses. So then you have two camera bodies there, but then maybe you're also on a video shoot and you're doing an interview, and so you want two cameras so you can cut back and forth between them. So that's two more cameras there. Everything just gets really, really expensive really, really fast. And one of the main reasons I got the GH5 was because it did so much so well at the time. And I'm not saying it's the only camera that does that. There's a lot of cameras that do both video and photo really well. But it is a limitation of things like the Ursa Mini Pro that if you want to do photography with that camera, like that's not going to make sense. You're going to need a photography camera, which is where things like the 5D Mark IV came into play. But then it's a whole separate set. Thankfully, the lens mounts are the same, so you can use the same lenses, but batteries are very different. Media cards are very, very different. The accessories to rig each kit out, very, very different. And that is kind of the nature of the beast when you're talking about photo and video, or cinema versus photo. They are very, very different, but if you can find something that meets somewhere in the middle, if that suits your needs, it can be much, much easier to pay off any debt you've accumulated, make jobs actually become profitable quicker, because now you're not paying off twice the expenses or four times the expenses if you need two of each camera, or maybe you even need three of the same camera. Whatever the situation might be, it just gets very, very expensive very, very quickly. And then the day will come where inevitably you'll have to upgrade. You'll want something newer. You'll want to switch systems. Maybe you'll go to Sony. Maybe you'll go to Fuji. Maybe you'll go to Red. I don't know what you'll do, but you'll switch. And now you've got two systems, and do you sell one after? Well, it's probably not going to make a whole lot of money back. Maybe you make some, but then you're switching to this other system that maybe some of the lenses don't work as well anymore. And it can be very, very challenging to keep track of all these buckets. The more things you have, the more just stuff accumulates over time, and the more you're invested in things that eventually become outdated. So as best you can, try and stick to one camera system. That's just like a baseline recommendation. It's not like you have to. It's not a hard set rule of, look at me. I've got a ton of stuff around here. Do I have any other cameras around? I got GoPros. I got all sorts of stuff. So you're going to have to do it at some point. But I think it can be easy when people talk about these things of like, well, get this camera for photography and then get this camera for video and then get this drone and then get this, action camera and get this, and this, and getting all these different things. And they all have their own, price creep that sneaks up on you because you're getting the accessories and more batteries and special cages and custom things all for the cameras that eventually will all be outdated eventually anyway by newer and newer cameras. Really just a suggestion for anyone feeling the need to ditch one system in favor for other, where the updates might be marginal or maybe even insignificant in certain situations. On paper, the specs might sound great, but then when you evaluate what your actual work is, you go, oh, that actually wouldn't be a meaningful difference for me at all. That doesn't really offer me that much value at all, but it would cost me certainly, an extra $5,000 to make the switch. So just keep all that in mind. Don't feel like you need to have all these different camera systems. You can usually get by with one if you choose the right one that can do a decent enough job in all the different areas, and then from there make the decision if it's worth it to actually invest in another system that you can't actually do based on your current needs. Because I can't fly this up in the air, so I'll need a drone at some point, but I had this before I had a drone. I didn't have the drone first because that's kind of just the one thing, A GoPro is just kind of the one thing. Get the one tool first that can do as much as possible, and then from there, fill in the gaps where you're struggling. Hopefully that makes sense. I don't know that it's really, maybe it's not all that valuable, or maybe it's not that revolutionary, but I do see a lot of people talking about having different cameras and different sets of lenses and all this stuff. And to me, it just seems incredibly expensive and kind of wasteful at the end of the day, where you get a lot more out of it if you kind of streamline for efficiency. Because really, the viewers, the people consuming the content, probably really don't care all that much. They're not going to really notice. It is more about just making your life easier as a professional, someone who has to buy and maintain all these tools, either keeping them up to date or selling them off over time. If you build up this huge collection of all this stuff, ultimately it all kind of becomes just junk, and you'll probably find yourself using one camera as kind of your go-to, and then you have all these others that are just kind of around, which I think is unfortunate, and then ends up being a big waste of money. So just something to keep in mind if you're getting the itch to buy something new or to radically add some other style to your collection. See if maybe there's a better choice, something in the middle, something where it's the one system that can kind of do most everything you need it to.